Hi, welcome to my latest video. This is the fourth vlog video. It is the end of June. It is scorching hot, blue sky, blazing sun. Pit lane Kitty's out here. She's passed out in the shade. She will not be helping me with this video, she's too hot. And I have been fiddling around with my car to get it ready for the Billing Aquadrome off-road show tomorrow, the Billing show. Okay, so it is a place called Billing. It's nothing to do with paying a bill, and it's in Northampton in the UK, okay, and it's on every summer, and it is a pretty good show. It's good for trade. Okay, so there's lots of trade stands, lots of auto jumble. It isn't a sort of bonnets up kind of car exhibitor type of show like Gaydon, where everybody parks up and everyone wanders around the cars. The cars are in a separate car park, okay, which is a shame. So Bewley and Gaydon are really the shows where everybody wanders around looking at each other's cars, and then Billing and what used to be the Peterborough show, the Belvoir Beaver Castle in September, are the ones where you sort of park up in a field next door and walk into the show, and then walk around all the trade stands and that, sort of buying goodies for your car. So Billing tomorrow and Bewley next Sunday. Okay, so I will be on the 4x4 response stand next Sunday at Bewley, and I will be sort of doing a bit of a kind of a PR type of thing with the other 4x4 responders, but my car will be there with the bonnet up probably, and I'll probably put some jerry cans and things on the roof like I did last year, so come up and say hello. So what I was doing this morning in preparation for tomorrow was crawling about under the car, putting a stiffening insert into the lower engine mounting. Okay, so it's not the real engine mount, it's a sort of tie bar or tie rod is what it's called. It's the sort of rubber kind of block thing with some brackets on it, and it's what sort of stops the bottom of the engine kind of rocking about as you try to accelerate and decelerate. So what I did last weekend is I did part one of the video series showing the renewal of the upper engine mounting, so this one here, the upper tie bar, and the lower one, and I put in these yellow polyurethane stiffening inserts. Okay, so these are made by Powerflex, available on eBay, etc., about £30 each, and we have one for the top and one for the bottom. Now these are quite kind of floppy and flexible. Okay, so I put those in. The improvement just with those was amazing. The car felt really good, really sort of firm and responsive. Okay, so no sort of lurching about of the engine. I think most of the problems before were because the lower mounting was really in a poor state. It'd fallen apart, the rubber was perished and split, and the inner part of it was almost completely disconnected from the outer sort of aluminium mounting. Okay, so just renewing that mount alone transformed the way the car felt. Putting these stiffening inserts in really did also improve it further, and I couldn't resist going a little bit further and putting in some black race only. So these ones are like the yellow ones, but they're even stiffer. Okay, so there's a much firmer grade of polyurethane. Put the top one in the other day and expected that to really, not be good. Okay, so some people have said, oh no, don't run those, the car will start just shaking violently, and the steering wheel will be shaking, and all the dashboard and all the rattles and that are going to come out in all the trim in the car. Also, worst case, I've actually heard of bolts undoing themselves, okay, due to the vibrations. So that sounds terrible, but I couldn't resist trying it just to see, because you should never believe what people say online, and I put that one in and it was fine, absolutely fine. It felt very similar to the yellow ones, not much different really. Very drivable, very comfortable, no horrible vibrations or rattles. So I went even further, and this morning I put the black one on the bottom, and I haven't driven it yet. I'll do that shortly, okay, but I have started the car up. and just idling. The steering wheel wasn't shaking, the engine wasn't moving as much as it should. It was all sitting there quite happily idling, and everything seemed fine. So very shortly I'll put the car down off the ramps, I'll go for a drive and see if it's okay with the black upper and lower inserts in those engine tie bars. What else have I been up to? Well, the video before the engine mount part 1 was the sill covers. Okay, so what I did is I removed these strips. Okay, so took those plastic strips off, expecting to find a load of horrible rust underneath, but it wasn't too bad. And that video was very popular. That has been the most popular video out of the last 10 videos that I've done. So when I drop a new video, I can actually look at a graph and see how it's performing over time. Okay, so what it will do is the YouTube Creator Studio or the app, if you have a YouTube channel, you can actually see how your videos are performing compared to the same time since upload for the last, out of the last 10 videos. Okay, so if you upload a new video and it sort of goes into kind of 8th or 9th place, then something's not right. Your viewers are not jumping to watch that video. The last 3 videos I've dropped have all gone into sort of 1st, 2nd or 3rd place, which is really good because it proves that I'm doing the sort of videos you guys want to watch. Okay, so just looking at a few more analytics for my channel, I can see that channel views were up in May, and in June they kind of leveled off at around 34,000 a month. The last 90 days, about 100,000, 101,000 views, and when I look back over the last year, I've got 462,000 views, with a big peak around Christmas and New Year. Okay, now I'm guessing that's because everybody's sitting around drinking and digesting their Christmas roast lunch and have nothing better to do but to sit and watch YouTube. Okay, I don't know, it's always popular around Christmas and New Year. People are off work, and also people may use the time off work to do some jobs on their cars, you see, so watching car modification videos is going to be quite popular. What else have I been doing recently? Okay, so I did the sill covers, did the engine mounts, did the air filter. I have finally, after about 7 years, fitted my front lift spacers. Okay, so in here. Did the rears years ago. So I developed, long ago, polyurethane lift spacers. Okay, and I made those and I sold them for many years, slowly improving the design and playing around with the sort of the height, the thickness of the lift spacers. These ones on the front are the latest 20, they're about 25mm thick. Okay, so sort of 20mm where the bolts go through and 25mm at the outer edge. It's a kind of a dished shape, and that sits on top of the strut top plate and pushes the whole suspension downwards. The lift I've got out of that is about 30mm actually. Okay, so the front does lift a little bit quicker. The rear is still on my old 20mm spacers, and I need to actually swap those for probably the 40mm thick rears. Okay, because at the moment I've got more lift on the front and it's playing havoc with my headlights. All right, so my headlight beams were just blinding people. They were too high, so I've adjusted them with the little knob thing right down, and they're still a little bit high. And now the adjuster fuse has blown again. It kept on blowing, and I thought it was because the connector for the LED bulbs was getting caught up in the mechanism. So I've cable tied that up out the way, and they're still blowing. It's still blowing the fuse. So something's going on. I think the motor in one of these is shorting or something like that. It's just I put a fuse in and it works for a day and then it blows. Okay, so I need to get to the bottom of that. But at the moment I'm running the headlights on the lowest sort of angle possible, because the front of the car is now running a little bit higher. I did a check the other day by sort of just putting something in there and then trying to get it in here, and the rears were about 1 centimetre lower. Okay, so if I go from 20 to 40mm spacers, that should address that and sort of bring it up to about 1 centimetre higher, which is probably what I want. I always like the back to be slightly higher. I think it looks better and it keeps that fuel tank up away from any rocks and things that might damage it, even though I've got a tank guard. The tank guard itself adds 5mm or so below the fuel tank, so get the back end up out the way. I also carry a lot of equipment and gear in the back, which is quite heavy, so I don't mind having a slightly higher lift on the back. So these lift spacers, I've been selling them for many years, and unfortunately I've had to stop making them now, okay, because I don't have a workshop, I don't have a garage or a shed. I've got a summer house with 3D printers in it, but it's not a workshop, and it's not big enough to sort of actually do polyurethane casting. So I was doing the polyurethane in the kitchen. After dinner I was getting all my chemicals out on the worktop and mixing up brightly coloured pigment, and yeah, Mrs. Pitts has said enough of these chemicals and bright colours and things that you're mixing up, because we're getting a new kitchen put in soon, and it's going to have, I don't know, some sort of quartz worktop or something or other, and if I get bright yellow or orange pigment on that brand new worktop, I will be in the doghouse. So unfortunately polyurethane casting has had to come to an end for now. In the future, hopefully I will start doing that again at some point, but probably have to move house and build a workshop before I can do that. Okay, the other polyurethane parts that I used to make as well, the roof light bar brackets, the air horn mounting brackets, I will also be discontinuing. Okay, so I've got loads of these in stock, I've got loads of the air filter duct adapters in stock, sold out of the roof light bar brackets now, I'm afraid. I've had quite a lot of emails from people going, oh, I'm after some roof light bar brackets, but you have sold out and they're not on your website anymore. Yeah, sorry, you'll need to fabricate something out of metal or something like that. I do get quite a few people saying, oh, please can you send me your 3D printer file so I can make my own. Well, the brackets on the roof are not 3D printed. The original design is 3D printed, but then it's cast in silicone mould. Okay, 3D print is not strong enough for the roof light bar brackets. The other 3D printed parts that I make, things like my headlight rods, my spotlight brackets, strobe mounts and all those kind of things, I sell those. So I'm not going to give out my intellectual property for free for other people to make their own. It's just too risky. They'll end up falling into the hands of someone else who then mass produces them and probably manages to do it cheaper than me. Okay, so I do need to protect my designs. Alright, so I don't give out the 3D print files. Sorry, I get a lot of requests for those. So unfortunately some products have been discontinued, but don't worry, I am working on other new products to add to my website. The headlight rods in here are selling well. Okay, so these are the orange ones, headlight release rods, which are much stronger than the standard black Lego axle kind of rods. Those are doing well. A variety of colours available, and I've now started to do white and pink headlight rods to go with all of the other colours that I do. Okay, so grey, silver, black, red, orange, yellow, blue, purple, green, yeah, basically every kind of colour of the rainbow really. So yeah, lots of different colours to choose from there. That is the only product where I do lots of colours. Okay, everything else is black, but the headlight rods, I don't know, it just seemed like a bit of fun really to do different colours, and that's proved very popular. Although I tried doing different colours for the spotlight mounts and people weren't interested really, so it's strange. Some parts people want bright colours, some others they don't. So what other parts am I developing? Intercooler hose protection clips. Okay, so where the intercooler hose connects on. Now let's see how this goes. It goes on the back of the intercooler, doesn't it? Well, here's an intercooler. Okay, so there's a sort of pipe there. So there is a pipe at the back at each end of the intercooler, kind of pointing backwards, and the big hoses that go on them, they always split. Okay, so the black rubber standard hoses that Land Rover fit, they just don't last very long. There are 4 intercooler hoses, one each end of the intercooler, one short one that comes up the front of the engine, and one elbow down to the turbocharger at the back of the engine. All of them suffer from splitting. Okay, and you'll know if you've got a split hose because it'll sound like a steam train, and eventually your engine warning light will come on. So the solution to split hose is to upgrade to blue silicone hoses. Okay, so these are DPH Sport. There are a number of other manufacturers, so you don't have to have blue. Blue seems to be the most popular. I've got blue hoses on top of my engine here as well. There are other colours. I think you can actually get black silicone ones, so they look like the factory ones, but they're made of silicone. But the important thing is to fit hoses that are much stronger. Okay, so these are sort of like 4-ply strong hoses, but unfortunately, even with uprated silicone hoses, the hoses either end of the intercooler rub against the metal bodywork as they kind of go back behind the engine, and unless you put something there to protect the hose, eventually it's going to wear through. Okay, so that's where these come in. So these are clips that just go kind of on the hose at the end like that, and then they clip onto that kind of clips into the metalwork, and it just sits there and prevents the metal from actually touching the hose. Okay, there was a problem with these, so I made these, I designed these, 3D printed them in ABS and fitted them to my car, and they're still on my car and they're performing well. So I did what I usually do, is I sent some out to people for free to test. There's sort of beta testers, as they're called. The idea there is they get the part for free, they test it, and they give me their feedback. And if they're happy with it, they can keep it. If they don't like it, they take it off and throw it in the bin. Okay, and one guy fitted these, and he didn't get very far with it because as he went to clip it on, this piece broke off. Okay, so that bit there broke completely off, and you can kind of see why, because the 3D print, let me just turn a bit so the light is on that, you can actually see the sort of layers of the 3D print. Now 3D print is very, very strong sort of across the layer, but as you build it up, it can just break off, okay, because the plastic is just sort of stacked one on top of the other, and I mean it is kind of slightly melted into the layer below, and each layer is only about 0.2 millimeters thick, but there is still a weakness. Okay, so this piece here was breaking off, and that's no good. Okay, so back to the drawing board, and I came up with a better design. So this design here is a 2-piece design. Okay, so you have the bit that's the main clip thing that goes around the hose, and then the bit that has a habit of breaking, I print that way. Okay, so the layers are that way, and that way the plastic is sort of, the filament is laid around like that, and that is then really strong. Okay, and then by putting a couple of holes in, a couple of marine grade self tappers in the bottom there, you end up with something that looks exactly the same but is much, much stronger. Okay, so I will be putting these on sale very soon, so a pair of these on my website for sale very soon. Okay, but I do want to do a bit more testing on my car and probably find a few people to test those for me before I absolutely release it out to sale. As well as the hoses at the ends of the intercooler, there is another problem. Okay, and I will show you. It's underneath the car. So here is the intercooler hose. Okay, so this is the one at the driver's side, UK driver's side end. of the intercooler, and this goes along and then up the front of the engine. Now this is a nice blue silicone hose, replaced the factory one, but look how much it moves around. It moves a lot. There is a kind of plastic hoop around the factory hose, but that's not big enough to go around the larger silicone hose, which is sort of slightly bigger diameter. So there is an issue here because the bolt heads, so I'll try and show you this, it's a bit difficult underneath the car. This is the air conditioning compressor, and it's got some very long bolts that go through it, and there are some bolt heads here, and as you accelerate and this hose goes under boost, it pushes back into this bolt head here, okay, and eventually it will make a hole in the hose. And I found that out the hard way when I fitted nice expensive new hoses, and after about a week one of them had a hole in it. So what I did was I put a big stainless steel Michelor clamp around the hose, just literally just halfway down the hose, just round there, so that the bolt head would hit against that. And you can see over probably about 2 years that has really worn into that stainless Michelor clamp there, and that's actually almost gone through. Okay, so that's just the bolt head hitting against that repeatedly. So I thought there's got to be a better way to deal with this. So I came up with this. Okay, so this is a clip very, very similar to those, but it's got a kind of hook thing at the bottom there. And what we do with this one is use this. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that all Freelander 2s have this bit here. Okay, so do check yours to see if it has got that. Okay, but the pre-facelift definitely have it, and there was one guy who said he didn't have that piece of metal on his car, but I have heard of someone with a 2014 who has got that, so I don't know, a bit strange really, but it should be there. It's this sort of metal hoop. Let's try and get it a bit closer. This metal hoop, which I think is where the factory hoop attached. And then the idea is with this, you put it around the hose, and I'll put it on the wrong way round. Hang on, it needs to go that way. Okay, so round the hose and spin that round, and then there you go. It just kind of clicks in. Okay, so it clicks into that metal hoop and then prevents the hose moving back. That's solid now, and there's a nice gap between the bolt head and the hose cannot move backwards at all now to hit that bolt head. These need a bit more testing. Looking good. I'm going to find some beta testers to fit those and give me their feedback, and if it's all looking good, I'll put those on sale as well very soon. Right, that's new products. Upcoming videos. What am I going to be doing with my car next? Okay, well, I'd like to fit a ladder. I'd like to fit a roof access ladder, because I've got my roof rack up there, and when there's things on it, I can't get to them very easily. So I have bought, and I bought this years ago, years and years ago, I bought this, a Discovery 4 ladder. And originally I was going to try and put it on the back of the car somewhere, but it's just not going to work. The weight of the ladder will probably stop the boot lid lifting up, and the other problem is it's just going to be too far away from the roof rack. What I need is for the ladder to be on the side like the new Defenders. Okay, so originally I was going to put it there, up there, but that's just, it's just too high. I can't get to that. Just zoom back out a bit. That is just too high. Whoops. Okay, I won't be able to reach, I won't be able to step up to that. And I'm never going to stand on that top rung there because I'd be pretty much still on top of the car. I just want something a bit lower. So what I really want is to somehow mount it kind of there, and then I've got to watch the fuel cap and make sure that still opens. So there's just enough room to kind of have it there. Now I'll probably have to cut the bottom off it because it is sticking out a bit too far. Going to end up kind of clipping wing mirrors with people. Okay, so there is just enough room to open the fuel cap. The challenge that I have is how do I attach it to the car? Okay, so what I thought I'd do is get some stuff called L-track. Okay, is this stuff. It's this kind of cargo stuff they use in aircraft and trucks and vans and things like that for kind of securing loads. Okay, so if I put that across there, probably doesn't actually need to be that long. Actually, I could probably cut this down, and then another bit either kind of here or here, then I can attach the ladder. And I've also been messing around with the fittings. Okay, so there's a sort of one of the fittings that's got an M10 bolt there, and it kind of slides about until you kind of tighten it down and it stays put. I've got a couple of these metal aluminium spotlight mounts here, and the diameter in there is exactly the same as the tubes on the ladder. Okay, so I can probably do something there to attach that to the car, but of course not only does the ladder need to be sort of actually usable, but it needs to be strong enough to take my weight, and I'm not a lightweight. So a fully grown adult man needs to be able to climb up that without it ripping itself off the side of the car. Okay, so usable, strong. It needs to be removable because I don't want it there all the time, so I need to be able to easily remove it. I need to be able to open the filler cap, put fuel in the car. I don't want it sticking out too far, okay, because that's going to start clipping other vehicles as I go past them, and also it mustn't really interfere with the rear view in the wing mirror too much. Okay, so there's a lot to think about there, a lot to think about, but I want to do this. I really want to do this. I think it would just be so nice to be able to just sort of step up, maybe step up on the wheel and then onto the ladder, and be able to actually get to the things on the roof quite easily. So that's that project coming up. I've also got brake hose upgrades, bonnet switch part 2. I'm going to do a video on the coolant routing. I'm going to look at the changing the rocker cover, possibly removing the EGR, and my headlight beam adjusters. There's a lot of videos and things coming up. I'm also going to try and rewire my horn. Okay, now I've got grease all over my hands. The horn, I did a video on air horns. Okay, so these air horns, and I wired in a separate relay because I couldn't find the horn wiring. I've since found the horn wiring because the horns are hidden away in the factory cross member as standard. I removed that to fit my winch. The winch tray basically replaces the cross member, and inside the cross member I found the horns. Okay, so nobody ever can see them, and nobody knows where they are, and that's where they are. They're hidden away inside the cross member, and the wire comes down here, just next to the headlight, and kind of down and like that, and that has a relay as standard which drives it. So if I can get those wires and send them back up to my air horn compressor, which is hidden down in here somewhere, then I can effectively run air horns with the standard relay and fuse and everything like that. I don't need to do the rewire job that I did when I did that air horn. I mean, somebody did actually comment a while back on that video and said something along the lines of you've taken a simple project and turned it into a complete nightmare or something like that. I can't remember what they wrote, but yeah, you know, I can see their point. Had I been able to get to the factory wiring, I would of course have done it that way, but I just couldn't see the wiring. I couldn't even see the horns. So now I know where they are and I know where the wiring is. I can actually get at that and do it properly. What else? Okay, intercooler. The last 3 vlogs, I think all 3 of them, I showed my RS turbo intercooler and said, oh, I'm going to be fitting this. And it's still sitting here and I still haven't fitted it. Although I have sprayed it a nice shade of black, okay. Why did I do that? Well, somebody had a go at spraying it in the past and made a bit of a mess of it. So it was kind of half sprayed. It was like black on one side and silver on the other. Some people might be sort of watching this going, oh no, it needs to be silver to radiate the heat. No, it doesn't. No. Black objects absorb heat radiation landing on them. This is convection, okay? It's not radiating that heat out, it's airflow through it, okay? It's a bit like the radiators in your house. They could be blue, red, green, black, whatever, they'd still heat your house. Okay, so black intercooler, absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be silver or reflective or anything like that. Okay, so a lot of intercoolers are actually black. They're only silver because they haven't been painted and they're aluminium. Okay, so this one, I've given it a clean up, blasted through got out any dirt and muck in between the veins on it and the cooling fins or whatever they're called, and sprayed it with some etch primer because it's aluminium, and then some satin black. The can was kind of running out a bit here, so that's why it looks a little bit greyish. It's just where the light is catching it. This side's better. Okay, so this is a second-hand Focus Mark III RS Turbo intercooler. Okay, and it is very similar to the Freelander 2 one, but it is a bit bigger. Okay, so it has 11 of these bars instead of 10. Be careful if you try and buy one of these, because the ST Focus and the Mark 1 and Mark 2 Focuses used the 10 bar one, which is identical to the one on the Freelander 2. Okay, only the later Mark III RS Turbo used the bigger 11 bar one. Possibly one of the very sporty ST ones, but all the ST ones, I bought an ST225, whatever it was called. It was the Mark III Focus ST intercooler. Bought that, and what arrived was basically exactly the same as what was already on my car. So I then bought the RS Turbo Mark III, and this turned up, and it is bigger. The hose output and input are the same. The location of them is very similar. The length is very similar. Okay, so the mounting bracket's slightly different, but height and depth are a little bit different. Okay, so what I did is I actually got a ruler, and I actually measured the standard intercooler against the bigger one. So the standard intercooler, 65 millimeters deep, 150 tall. The RS Turbo, 200 millimeters tall, 85 millimeters deep, which means that the new intercooler would be 20 millimeters further forwards. Okay, so the depth is 20 millimeters bigger. That shouldn't be a problem. There's loads of room there. But it is 50 millimeters taller. So you've got to remember, if that's 50 millimeters and 20 out, I think it would just fit. Just. It'll be very, very tight. Very tight. Now this one might be able to go up a little bit. Okay, so looking up there is a gap above it. Not a lot. It's about 15 millimeters, but there are some bolt heads underneath the winch. So it's one of those things where it might work, it might not. I've actually seen somebody fit one on the Freelander 2 and it did fit, but they didn't have the winch tray. So I don't know if it's going to fit. So in a couple of weeks' time I'll remove the front end and see if I can make that fit. I'm worried it's one of those projects where I'm going to go to all the trouble of putting it in there, and then I'm going to go to reattach the front bumper and find it doesn't go back properly because the intercooler's too large. So I've got to be really careful with that one. It'll be a very interesting project, and yeah, it's just something I want to try, really. So what else have I got planned? Well, talking of interesting videos, I saw a video on Instagram, and it was a video by a company fairly near me in Reading called Caversham Cars, and it was quite a shocking video. It was actually a guy smashing the rear windows on his Freelander 2 with a hammer. I couldn't believe it. He actually broke this window and then broke this one deliberately. Why would somebody do that to their Freelander 2? I watched the video and I was like, what is this guy doing? Why is he breaking into a car? But then I found out it's his own car. Why is he breaking into his own car? Has he locked the keys inside or something? And it turned out that what had happened was the guy had locked his Freelander 2 and gone away, or hadn't driven it for a couple of weeks, and the battery had gone flat. So because the battery was flat, the central locking wouldn't work, so he pressed the key fob, the car was completely dead and it was locked. It wouldn't unlock. So he tried using the metal key. Okay, so in the key fob there is a little sort of mechanical key, a metal key, a traditional key that you pull this off and you put it in, and that's meant to sort of unlock the car in the event that you can't get in using the remote control, because usually because the battery's gone flat in the remote control, and maybe your battery's gone flat in your spare key as well. You can't get in the car, so you mechanically unlock. The alarm will go off, but as soon as you stick the key in the ignition, usually that stops the alarm. But when the guy tried to use the mechanical key, it didn't fit. I don't know why. It didn't unlock the car. I think it was possibly a blank that had never been cut, or maybe he didn't have the mechanical key, or maybe it was a mechanical key for another vehicle. But anyway, he couldn't get it to unlock the car using that. Now, even if he had done that, of course, the alarm and everything would have been dead as well, because there's no power at all. Okay, but he should still be able to actually physically unlock the door. Okay, and that would then allow him to get to the bonnet release, to pop the bonnet, to then charge the battery, which is really what he was trying to do. All he wanted to do was open the bonnet. So unfortunately, he was completely unable to get into his car. So he had no choice but to smash the windows. Now, he was trying to get to the bonnet release, but for whatever reason, he decided to break this window. Probably the thinking was that that's the smallest one, it will be the cheapest to have replaced. I don't know why, but when he broke that, he still couldn't reach the handle to open the door, so he broke this one as well. It sounds very destructive. It might have actually probably been cheaper just to break this one and reach in and get the bonnet release. But it got me thinking, is it possible to recharge a completely flat Freelander 2? Okay, so is it possible to recharge the battery when the car is locked and the battery's gone flat? I don't know, and I'd like to do a video investigating that to see if there's a way. The thinking is, if you can get a crock clip onto the starter motor terminal, which is permanent live. Okay, so the starter motor solenoid has a thick red cable to the battery. So if you can reach up underneath, get a jump lead onto that, or a charger crock clip onto that, and then another one onto the chassis, that should recharge the battery. Give it a little while and that current will go up the wire into the battery, recharge the car, the central locking then works, and you can probably, as long as your key fob's working as well, you can then unlock the car and get in. That's the idea. I'd love to test it. So what I'm going to do is actually disconnect the battery and get carefully a couple of jump leads down so that the car is completely dead with no power, see if there's a way to get in, and if I'm unsuccessful, then all I have to do is just connect the jump leads together to reconnect the battery, and then I can get in and sort it. Okay, but I don't really want to disconnect the battery, lock the car and everything like that in case I can't get in and I have to smash a window as well. Alright, but a very interesting video to try and do, and just kind of see if it was really necessary to break the windows on this guy's car. That is it. Only other thing I've got on the table here is this moving message display that I was given by one of my fellow responders. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with that. He was giving it away, didn't want it anymore, so I said, oh, I'll have that, stick it in the rear window of the car. I can think of some alternative text to put on the display, but I won't mention that now. We'll play with that in another video. I'm going to try and do more shorts, okay, so shorts on Instagram and Facebook, or I think they're called reels on Instagram, shorts on Facebook, little video clips, alright. So I put up a lot of pictures, don't really do video clips. When I did a video clip of oil dripping out of my catch can drain hose, it got a lot of views. People obviously like watching oil drain out of a catch can, so I'll try and do more shorts, okay, and reels, or whatever they're called. Nowadays when you look on Instagram, it's mostly video clips, not still photos. So yeah, I think I need to get with the times and do more sort of short little video clips for you guys to watch. That is it. I've talked a lot again. Every time I do one of these vlogs, I have best intentions to sort of make it like 10 or 15 minutes long, and it ends up being about 20 minutes to half an hour. So thank you very much for watching. If you have put up with me waffling on as a reward, if England are still in the Euro, whatever it's called, UEFA Euro Football Championship thing, so long as England are still in, I am doing a free worldwide postage voucher code. So treat yourselves to free postage on any orders on my website anywhere in the world, okay? So there is a voucher code, Euro24. Stick that in the coupon code thing at checkout and it will give you free postage, alright? Those of you on my Instagram and probably Facebook as well, if you're following me on Instagram and following my Facebook page, you will already know about this because I put a picture up and I said about it. No one has used the code yet. Loads of people have been ordering things and they've been quite happily paying for postage. You could have had free postage, but if you want to use it, be quick, because England are playing on Sunday night and I don't know how much longer we're going to be in this tournament, okay? Right, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, bye.